righty. Get the TikTok started. All righty. All right. Allegedly, we're live. I'm going through and turning a bunch of stuff off on my computer. All righty. Go to restream. All right, there we go. I see people. All right. Well, we were fighting some gremlins right before we started, but we're here and we're live and we are ready to go. Whew. Oh. All right, here we go. Good evening, lunatics. It is Friday, January 26th, and we're back with you for episode 193 of the podcast. Looks like we got a few people checking in on YouTube. And we're still kind of catching up. There's some kind of technical gremlin that's invaded Larry's desk. We've tried it with two different computers, so we had to go old school with the very first USB microphone he ever had when I suckered him into doing a podcast in the first place. But alas, we are live and we are making it through. So good evening. We got Philip Gray on here. Phil, we need to talk to you because we have an opening. So you need to get in touch with us this week. You are the next contestant on The Price is Right.
Yes, you are.
Wow.
Come on down.
Yeah. Wow. So what's been happening this week?
Well, other than me trying to get my eggs unscrambled.
Yeah. Well, we had the big the FMCSA rule announcement came out that March 11th is going to happen, and life as we know it is going to end, according to people on Facebook.
Yeah, everybody's concerned about how that's going to affect Landstar, and they're going to hate to hear this, but it's not going to affect it one iota.
It's not going to change anything.
I know that's going to break a bunch of people's hearts.
My favorite is Landstar's no longer going to be able to make us do 120-day inspections. What was the other one they thought? 120s and something else, which the typical truck driver response, which has always entertained me, is this idea that the FMCSA is simultaneously the root of all evil and
the answer to all their prayers
and the answer to all their problems. Like how does that work? That you point out everything that the FMCSA has done, that has negatively impacted the industry. If not for such a strong market, if not for creative people that have kept things going, the FMCSA, if they had their way on everything, would absolutely destroy our ability to move freight. But yet the market is always one step ahead of the state and the apparatus. PC, that's it. They weren't going to be able to restrict PC. Of course, right. These knuckle draggers, if not made to get a 120-day inspection, they'd all be out of service on the side of the road because damn well they're not getting under their trucks and doing anything. And then, of course, they'd be running PC 3 or 4 hours a day. It's a comedy of errors, and it's kind of sad. But and honestly, maybe I should, because I'm a broadcasting professional. Maybe I should read all this stuff, but I simply can't make myself care. There are people who believe that they all have an employee mentality. They want to be employees. They want to be cared for from cradle to grave. They want someone, they need a bully, right? They need someone that will protect them from every negative occurrence. They need someone to answer all their needs, guarantee their pay, guarantee that nothing's ever going to happen bad to them. And of course, when they get that, they're like, I wish these people would stay out of my life. Well, I'm not sure exactly which way you want it, but it's going to be one way or the other. I think that the real push behind California AB 5 and behind this PRO Act that'll never happen, and these changes with the FMCSA are, first of all, self-employed people make terrible slaves. They don't do what they're told when they're told to do it. They're generally in a position to where they can't be forced to do things they don't want to do. And this push to push everyone under the banner of an employee is to just create that permanent slave class. And for unions, now, of course, we should all know by now, a politician never does or says anything that isn't somehow connected to getting votes, right? If their lips are moving, it's what can I say to guarantee that the people that are going to go to the voting booth are going to keep me here for another 2 or 4 years. They absolutely couldn't care less about the efficiency of moving freight. They certainly don't care about your ability to make a living. They don't care whether you're a 1099 or W-2, except to the extent where they think they're going to get more tax money out of you being a wage slave. But when it all comes down to it, whatever they do on March 11th is not going to affect us in any way. We are a business doing business with a business. Blue Ribbon is a business doing business with a business that is Landstar. So whatever they try to do with this 1099 stuff, it may force people, and I don't even think this is accurate, but it could possibly force people that are operating a truck as a BCO under a sole proprietorship. It may force them into an LLC. Maybe. But even I just, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's just another stupid distraction to keep you off of your game, and of course to get people riled up.
Well, most people wouldn't even know about it if it weren't for the fear mongers trying to get on social media and make something of it that's not.
Exactly.
Another thing they're trying to do that with is with this new FinCEN transparency thing with owners of LLCs. And I've spent a long time today with my CPA and research. Now I'm going to talk about that some tonight as well, because it's along the same lines. It means nothing to most people, except if you listen to the fear mongers, and then you get all riled up when you think that, there's a problem that doesn't exist, and it's not. For most people already provide this information to their state. They just now going to have to provide it to a government agency at the federal level that they haven't been having to do it before. But there's nothing to it unless you really are a terrorist trying to fund your terror organization. Then you might have something to worry about. But we already do that. We fund the IRS. That's the one that's the money making arm of the biggest terrorist organization the world's ever known. Right. and it hasn't stopped anybody from doing it. So I doubt it has any impact on this.
What to me is interesting is, and probably people won't get this or won't like it, but in the modern time, most totalitarianism is voluntary. It really is. They scare you and terrorize you and terrify you in to making counterproductive decisions out of some fear that some terrible thing is going to happen. And you end up, which we saw that in 2020, there were lots of people that signed up for voluntary tyranny. They volunteered for it. Oh yes, here, please do it. Not only do it to me, I want you to do it to all of my neighbors. And we were in a position where we didn't have to do any of that.
People exchange vulnerability with false security all the time, because they sense the need for someone to help them, and they'll give away a lot of privileges, rights to get that temporary aid. Think about the COVID deal and others. You're talking about the Patriot Act of the after 9/11 is when all this first started.
Yeah.
And but when people are scared, they'll give away a lot of what they have for a false sense of security. And you see it all the time. You just don't recognize it until somebody points it out to you.
Yeah.
But it happens every day.
And they scream all the time about somebody taking their rights. I'm like, if y'all didn't give away most of your rights, you wouldn't have a problem in the first place. But you give it away.
Yeah, they're taking them because you've illustrated that you'll give them to them. I did a very long white paper about this after the COVID thing. It's on my Facebook page. It's called The Great Experiment, The Grand Experiment.
Yeah.
I encourage everybody to read it because it's about this very thing, the willingness of people to walk away from their God-given rights for the feeling of doing good for your better man, for your fellow man, at the request of the government. And not understanding that those rights that you're giving away, you're never going to get back again. And we haven't gotten them back yet. Yeah. And now they see how easy it is to take them. And so they're more inclined to continue to take them because we show no backbone to resist it.
I have this observation, especially being in this position over the last 4 or 5 years of watching people interact in social media. And I don't believe social media is the problem. I think social media is the microscope that has just magnified and showed us an issue that exists, but it didn't create it. It's just making it visible like a microscope does, something you wouldn't see with the naked eye.
Well, you have the responsibility to apply your own filter. It's not filtered for you like the mainstream media is. Right. It's out there in its raw form, and you have to apply the filters. And most people just can't do that. They need somebody else to think for them and tell them what's the best thing to do.
Yeah. And Landstar is a great example because, and it's not just Landstar, but Landstar gives out this very thick BCO resource guide. I think I've got one here somewhere sitting around my desk that has lots of practical information in it. They have a 24/7 800 number that you can contact the corporate office. And there are people who are paid full-time on staff with benefits and probably paid pretty well to answer questions about permits and answer questions about fuel and taxes and all of these different things. Yet, for some reason, they don't pick up the phone and call Jacksonville or Rockford. They don't call contractor services. They don't call the compliance department. They don't call hazmat. They get on Facebook and they ask people to lie to them. That's basically what they're saying. Hey, I have a question. Okay. Well, there's 4 or 5 people lined up. I'll be glad to lie to you right now. I will fabricate something out of thin air, or I'll just repeat something that was fabricated out of thin air, and I will present it to you as the truth, and then you'll never question it.
Yeah, well, here's the underlying reason behind that, Chris. You know this. They know if they call the authority, they're going to get the right answer, and probably the answer that they don't want to hear, because they're looking for someone to rationalize their bad decision. But if they call other drivers, it's a good chance that half of those have made that stupid decision themselves. And now you've got people supporting your stupid decision as opposed to illustrating to you how ignorant it was. And that's why they don't want to contact Jacksonville, because they're not going to get that support there. They're going to get what should have been done. And there'll be some accountability involved. We get this here on a lower, lesser number, but it's easier to look for somebody to sympathize with your bad decision. That's easier to live with, because now you found other people that made the same mistake you have, and now you have strength in numbers, as opposed to contacting the person right up front that can answer the question positively. And it probably won't be the answer that you want, but or you dread having, but you want the answer that supports your bad decision. That's the psychology behind that.
We had a truck breakdown this week, and new listen, we will move heaven and earth to keep from calling Landstar to repower a load. Just because it's messy. It's messy and it's complicated and it's hard
and it's expensive.
And expensive. And in most cases, in a lot of cases, we will be able to somehow solve the problem ourselves.
Better than they will.
And so we thrashed around all day looking for options. And finally, I had to call the repower department. And I said, look, I've tried everything. I've tried everything that I can think of to try, and I've run out of options, and I need your help.
I bet that was a tough call to make.
It was. Now, fortunately, they haven't found anybody, and we're probably going to have the truck fixed before this repower ever comes up, because I've been, I had a very interesting conversation a few interesting conversations with a shop foreman this week at a Detroit diesel dealer. That's where the truck's at. And we were at first looking at the potential of about a $15,000 engine repair. And it's on a Mercedes engine, by the way. So as you know, we've been lunatics from day one because of a Mercedes engine. And I'm talking to this guy, and of course, well, do you just want to put a motor in it? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay you $35,000 for a reman and another $10,000 to put it in. No. I said, I'm relatively confident that I know what's wrong, and that proved to be correct. And he just kept pushing back on me. And at one point he said, well, man, that's an awful lot of money putting that truck. I said, do you push back as hard when somebody wants to put a $15,000 one box on a Cascadia?
Crickets. That was classic, by the way.
Crickets.
Yeah.
No,
we'll finance it for them.
Yeah. We'll put a $15,000 one box that may not have even been the problem in the first place. And the conversation got better today with him. And I said, listen, we've got the bill down to about, I think, 9,000 or so. We're going to replace a couple of the heads. We removed all of the heads for inspection. So we got to have 6 head gaskets, and we got to have a bunch of other ancillary parts.
But we lost half our audience right now because they don't understand that there's 6 heads on a Mercedes motor.
Yeah. We're going to replace 2 of the heads. And he said, now it'll take 3 or 4 days to get these parts unless we use air freight. And I said, we'll use air freight. Well, gosh, that's awful expensive. I said, that truck will make that air freight back in half a day if you'll just fix the damn thing and get it back on the road. I'm not concerned about air freight. I'm concerned about the freight sitting on the trailer that can't move right now because his head's cracked. So let's get the truck back together. And so we finally got to where we're going to we get the parts ordered. And I said, listen, there's one more thing. He's like, okay, what's that? I said, I want you to go out there and look at this truck. And I don't want them to pull a single piece of broken anything off of that truck to get it out of the way and then put that broken thing back on. So you've got the cooling system empty. So let's look at all the hoses. Let's look at all the shunt lines and cooling pipes and radiator clamps. Please do not take broken stuff off of my truck to get to the issue and then put broken stuff back on it. If it's less than $50, don't call me, just do it. Oh, well, yeah. Well, a lot of people, I said, yeah, a lot of people are broke, desperate, and stupid. And I'm not one of those people. Okay. I'm interested in you getting this truck back on the road as soon as possible. And let's go make some money, because that's what we're all here for, is to make money. So I think we finally got through to him. But
all those exceptions came from his experience of dealing with truck drivers, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I was telling him, I watched one at the shop the other day. I think it came in for a wheel seal, and they fixed the wheel seal, and he goes around the building and his turn signal's not working. And he walks back in the front and he goes, my turn signal's not working. And we're like, okay, well, I mean, we can have a look, but it's going to be a work order. He's like, well, it was just in the shop. Well, honey, we weren't working on your turn signal. We were working on your wheel seal. We didn't have anything to do with your turn signal not working. So I listen, I can't imagine probably some of the nonsense, which, well, Chris Dolan has got 1,000 stories, and they're all gold about these broke ass truck drivers that come in and basically just want you to duct tape and bail and wire it back together.
And then guarantee for everything that happens to it the next 90 days being your fault.
Literally had one get rear-ended the other day. The trailer got rear-ended, and they wanted it. They want to squeeze this trailer together, and buddy, they did, and I mean, they wrapped it, and it was god awful thing, but wrapped it up, and the dude took off with it. So there are so many people that correctly see the opportunity that owning and operating a truck can provide. They're like, oh, wow, okay. I can, instead of being the driver, like Larry says, instead of selling yourself at wholesale and them selling you at retail, well, go sell yourself at retail. Owning the truck can be a very lucrative proposition, and we've got all the data to prove that. However, you cannot be surprised when you're rolling up I-220 in Jackson, Mississippi, and the truck just quits. It just shuts off and on the shoulder. And you call the road service, and you pay that guy $500 to come out, and he says, I think your fuel pump's out. Okay, well, he don't want to do a fuel pump on the side of the road in the rain. Okay, fine. So I tow it to Clark Power in Jackson, Mississippi. And I said, I think maybe it's a fuel pump. Well, we get in a fuel pump, and it's not a fuel pump. It's bigger than that. Which, what we discovered was a cracked head or two, and we were losing prime. And it's potentially $15,000. Well, yeah, that's a lot of money. But in the grand scheme of what that truck can make in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, that's a drop in the bucket. Just write the check. But most people can't write the check, and it's that right there, that $10,000 repair. They can't even tow it to get off the road. Rocky has told us stories of BCOs having to get a Landstar loan to pay for a $350 alignment. Well, what the hell are they going to do when the one box goes out? What are they going to do if it throws a rod? What are they going to do if it breaks a transmission? A $9,000 DT12 automatic. What are you, because it's coming. The catastrophic repair is coming. And if you don't have $10 or $15 or $20,000, you're out of business. And your truck's for sale for $5,000. Because that truck broken right now sitting in that shop's probably worth $5,000. But we put this 10,000 into it. Now all of a sudden it's worth almost 50. To us, it's mathematically a no-brainer. We put it into the calculator and we go, okay, well, this absolutely makes sense. Let's get this truck fixed. Let's get this driver back on the road, and be done with it. But, people get into business thinking nothing bad's ever going to happen. Well, that's pretty much all that happens. You're moving from one crisis to the next. And what's going to separate you from the next guy is how well are you going to handle it.
Or buy a new truck and get a warranty, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw one this week. What was it? It was a new International with 14,000 miles, has electrical issues, and has been sitting there 2 weeks. And the guy's like, I might lose this truck. Well, if a 2-week breakdown is going to make you lose the truck, the problem's not the electrical problem. The problem is that you have a truck.
Bad business plan.
You have a bad business plan. You bought a truck you couldn't afford.
And you shouldn't have been in business to begin with. Well, it's cold, isn't it?
Yep. Well, I mean, that's certainly true of me. I shouldn't have been in business. It's a miracle I made it as long as I did.
It's not being mean. It's just that you can't go into business with no plans, with no backup plans, and no way of preparing for these quote unexpected bad things are going to happen. There's such thing called Murphy's Law, and it applies 100% in business. It applies sometimes in life, and that you've heard it's that if something's going to go wrong and can go wrong, it will. That's the rule in trucking, not an exception. And if you're not prepared for that, if your business plan doesn't include ways to get through those situations, then your business plan is a failure to begin with. And that's just maturity. That's not being mean. That's just telling you that you're doing this and you're not ready yet. If you don't have that reserve, if you're working right now and you're not making that reserve because you think you've got all this money in your pocket and you're not going to work next week, you're going to take a week off. How about you work and get your reserve account built up and then take off? But people don't think about that. They work for somebody for a 1099, so they get more of the money in their pocket, and not have to give it to the government, and they end up not having any more reserve account than if they hadn't been. And now they're working illegal. Now they got all these other issues, can't pay their taxes, and on and on and on. But the bottom line is, you work your ass off as much as you can when you can, so that when things go wrong, you're prepared for it. But we saw it during the COVID. I mean, people were making so much money that they could work half the time, make the same money. So that's what they did. And now when things are rough, they can't make it because they didn't save any money when they could have worked all this extra and had all this extra money, but they didn't do it because they were just too lazy to do it. They wanted to only make what they always made and do half the work. And that just doesn't work when you don't have any money.
Nope.
And see, we get fussed at for that because we tell it like it is. That's the unsugar-coated God's truth about this. Even though it makes some people feel bad because we act like we're mean here and cold-hearted. We're not. We're just realistic, and we feel like we're warm-hearted because we keep you from making these stupid mistakes and doing the things that stupid people do if you listen to us.
Yep. I mean, we had a guy today had a blowout on a trailer, right? And it knocked him back a couple of hours, and he could not make a pickup, and so we lost the weekend load. And so Richie was looking for a load, and he said, hey, you got any ideas? And I jumped in there and I did the trip plan ninja thing, and I booked him a load because I called an agent about one load that was on the board that was already covered. And I know this agent, Lori, and she said, well, hey, I think I've got something else. And I said, well, tell me about it. And she told me about it, and I went, perfect. It absolutely fixes our problem. It was actually more money than the load we lost by about $300. But I had to expand my search and I had to look way out. I didn't have time to complain about the tire and how long it took Loves to get there. I didn't have time to complain about the customer and the agent. I just had to fix the problem, and fix the problem is what I did. And everything was fine. And this week, I mean, from Monday morning at 7:30 till sometime Wednesday night, it was just nonstop. It was one little thing right after another. I mean, I was absolutely wore out by the end of Wednesday. Now, if you're a single truck owner operator, you're not responsible for 11 like I am. So you shouldn't have the level of stuff that I do. But there's all of these little problems. And when one of them pops up, I've got to boil it all down. Okay, well, I'm only going to have one or two options. What are they? And pick which one it is. And okay, let's go. Let's do this. Let's move forward. People spend so much time whining and complaining about stuff that they can't control.
Let me restate that for you. People waste so much time.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw something on TikTok today. It was absolutely fascinating, and I'm going to see if I can explain it. Of course, everybody's got a podcast, right? I mean, there's a million podcasts, and in a lot of cases, it'll be a couple of people, and they're just having a conversation like we do, okay? And there's this man and woman, and I guess their podcast is about business and HR and dealing with employees. And this lady begins to read a letter from a listener, and it says, "My millennial employee." I called my millennial employee in, or maybe it was Gen Z or whatever. I called my Gen Z employee for an 8 o'clock meeting, and they said, "Sorry, um, I'm going to be at the gym at that time." And she indicated that this story frustrated her. Well, then it clicks over to a stitch, and it's a guy sitting in his car. And he begins addressing this woman by name. And he says, "Oh, well, you didn't, when I was hired, you told me it was 9 to 5, and I've got responsibilities outside of work. And if you would have given me a week notice instead of a day notice, maybe I could have moved things. But are you going to pay for my gym class? And are you going to pay me for being there and all of this stuff? And well, I'm going to send HR an email with a link to this TikTok." Well, I clicked the original TikTok and it's been deleted. And I went, wow. So I guess this lady is talking about this guy, and we were getting to see the TikTok drama. Well, I did about 30 seconds of searching, and come to find out, this guy does not even work for this lady. He made it up. He completely fabricated this story out of thin air. But the whole comment section, and the reason that they took that video down, is they were getting absolutely lambasted by thousands and thousands and thousands of trolls that thought this was real. And it was 100% fabricated by this guy. Now, I give you credit. You made up a story, and it took off. It's got 17 million views or something. So, I mean, well done. You got the clicks that you wanted. But that wasn't even the frustrating part about it. It's reading these comments. "Boy, I can't wait to see the lawsuit." There's not going to be a lawsuit. It's not real. It's fake. It's made up. It didn't happen. But there will be people years from now that could be sitting in a bar going, "Hey, man, you remember the time that lady did that thing and that guy clapped back?" Thinking, and they will think forever that was real. That's the danger of not having the curiosity of where it hooks you and you go, "Oh, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if it's true." I read this thing about the FMCSA in March 11th. Okay. I wonder if it's true. Well, I heard this thing about brokers. I wonder if it's true. But they never get that part. They'll take something that confirms their existing buy. Well, brokers are dirt bags, and brokers take 50% of the rate. And then they lock themselves in this tightly sealed echo chamber where they can never, ever hear anything conflicting what they already believe. And they'll get in there with a bunch of people that will just keep reinforcing that thing that is absolutely, verifiably untrue. And they will never hear anything different. If you just want to be an employee the rest of your life, that's fine. Go live that way. But if you try to get into business without having that curiosity, how does that work? How does my air brake system work? What is an air dryer? How do you know what I mean? What is an alternator? And how does it work? Like, if you cut yourself off, now you're putting yourself at risk of automatically ceding authority to someone that maybe has their name on their shirt and maybe has a badge of some sort that says they're certified, and they don't know any more than you do. But you'll be like, "Oh, well, he said," and as soon as he said it, I'm completely absolved of all responsibility because the mechanic said. No, no, you have to question everything, everything you've ever believed, everything you're told. And it's not to be contrarian, and it's not to be just disbelieving of everything you hear. It's just be curious and look beyond and say, okay, was what this person telling me, is it true? And if it is true, who benefits from it being true? It's just asking some questions and having some curiosity, because you'll never survive in business if you're sitting around waiting for somebody to tell you what to do. Because you're,
And you find out the truth on your own.
yeah. And the competition is going to pass you by, because those of us that know how to solve those problems, well, we're just gonna go around you while you're sitting there trying to figure out what to do. Or what was the one a few weeks ago? The guy was losing his truck or something, and he kept talking about all these problems, and as well, the truck sat for 6 months in the dealership. Well, listen, I mean, we've got a couple Cascadias, and I know how troublesome they can be. But I promise you, my truck's not going to sit there for 6 months, because I'm going to go find the parts. I'm going to find them somewhere, because I'm going to go around the parts guy, because he has absolutely no incentive. He gets paid the same whether your truck's sitting in a parking lot for 6 months or not. The service manager and the service advisor and the technicians, they could not care less. The only person that's going to care whether or not that truck's moving and make money is you. So you better stand up. You better get in there and say, okay, well, you guys are obviously not doing anything, but I'm going to do it. What's the VIN number? What's the part number? I will go find and solve this problem myself. If you're not willing to do that, please don't get into business, because it's
We've
going
been known to pull it out of the shop and have somebody else come in the parking lot and fix it for them.
I'm sorry, say it again.
So we've been known to pull it out of the shop and have somebody come and work on it in their parking lot and fix it on their parking lot
Yeah, that's literally happened.
with a part that they said they didn't have
Mhm.
that we bought from their across their counter.
Yep. Um, it's not, again, it's not to be hateful, okay? But you just got to understand, nobody's going to care as much about your business as you do. You know, you're the person that has to take charge. And there are times, as the fleet manager of this fleet, um, that I've been in a situation where I'm talking to a shop and I tell them, well, here's what we're going to do. And they say, well, no, we're not. And I'm like, hold on, stop. Who's paying the bill? Well, you are. Well, that means who's in charge? I am. So you're going to do what I tell you to do, or I will tow this truck out of here if I have to. I will spend $500 or $1,000. If you're going to stand around with your thumb up your butt and not fix this truck, I will tow this sucker out of here so fast it'll make your head spin. Get out of the way, because I'm in charge. You're not in charge. When you are momentarily my employee because I'm contracting you to do a job, you better do what the hell I tell you to, or you're not going to be getting paid anymore. But, people, they don't like confrontation, and they don't want to, they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Listen, I'll
But
hurt
they
your
don't
feelings.
mind hurting themselves.
I'll hurt your feelings in a heartbeat. Okay. Your feelings are no concern of mine when I'm trying to run a business, when I'm trying to serve a customer, when I'm trying to get a truck fixed. I don't give a shit about your feelings. Um, we're going to get this truck fixed, and the story you're talking about with the clutch in Knoxville, they lied. They lied to a BCO and said they didn't have the part. Yet when we towed the truck out, the shop that we called to fix it went into their parts counter and bought the part they said they didn't have.
After we told them that the part number had been superseded,
Right. Well, I
which
had
we had
3
to tell
part
them
numbers,
that they didn't know that on their own.
Right. And saved him $4,000, by the way.
Yeah, and how much time? How much downtime? Weeks.
Of course, they said their work order estimate said no ETA available because we don't have the parts.
Right.
So were they going to leave him sitting there a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month? Who knows? But he broke down on Monday morning at 4 o'clock, and he was hauling freight Friday when I got involved. So the truck went from being down an undetermined amount of time to being down 4.5 days and back hauling freight because I intervened. And I
For
picked up the phone
$4,000 less money.
for $4,000 less money. I picked up the phone and I made some phone calls, and I figured out how to get that truck moving in 5 days. Now, this one that's broke down right now went down on Thursday, and all indications, as long as FedEx don't lose the parts, that truck's probably going to be back on the road Tuesday. So what, 3.5, 4 business days for a catastrophic repair? We just don't have time to mess around when we're out here trying to haul freight, make money. Our driver needs to get paid. Our truck owner needs to get paid. Agents need to get paid. Everybody needs to get paid, and nobody's getting paid if that truck is sitting in a dealership for 3 or 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's up to you. Nobody's going to fix it for you. If you want somebody to fix it for you, go get you a good company job, and somebody will take care of it for you. They'll give you another truck. But if you're going to be an owner operator, you better get ready to be in charge of everything. You cannot, to an extent, you can hire an accountant or you can hire a CPA, but even then, if you're not doing your own bookkeeping, that CPA is going to get a big chunk of your money at the end of the year. So you better learn how to do proper accounting.
We got a question here we need to answer.
Go ahead.
David or Daryl, he's asking, do you own Blue Ribbon or just work there? I think he meant work there, but
well,
let me clarify that for you, Daryl. I own Blue Ribbon. My wife and I own Blue Ribbon. Chris is our world-renowned, established best fleet manager on the planet, and he's worth every penny of the salary that I pay him to do his job. We wouldn't be here without him. He is a valued employee, but I'm smart enough to know that I have to have people around me smarter than me if we're going to be successful. And whatever it is I can't do, I make sure whoever I hire can do it. And we certainly didn't miss the mark with this guy. So he is our fleet manager. He has complete authority over the fleet as if it was me talking. He consults with me on an hourly basis about decisions, but we generally put our heads together and make decisions together. He is technically an employee, but I look at him more as a partner than an employee. So I hope that answers your question. Chris, you can add to that if you want.
Yeah, there's a lot of responsibility that falls on me because I'm the fleet manager. I'm the maintenance coordinator. I'm a trainer and mentor and advisor. I wear a lot of hats. I saw some.
He also has a thick wallet.
I saw some TikTok the other day about making a resume, for people that don't know. And then, well, what are your skills and qualities? I thought, well, if I wrote all that shit down that I've gathered up over the last 5
Nobody believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you find to get that experience, buddy?
Yeah.
This is how we do it.
Yeah. Fleet manager.
What's that commercial? We know a lot because we do a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's at the farmers insurance.
Yeah. We've something about we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah. I know some shit because I've seen some shit.
We've seen some shit. Yeah. We've done some shit.
But I'm gonna tell you that what got me to where I am today is curiosity, and a willingness to
learn
ask questions and learn and throw some things away. There are some things that I once deeply held that I no longer hold, and that's sometimes hard. Let me stroll through.
Well, that's constant search for the truth and not letting people tell you what it is. Absolutely. Well, I can't, back to this question, I can't compliment my key employee, Chris Polk, enough. He's not only a key employee, but he's become a great friend. And we together have done things that neither one of us could have accomplished individually. We're the yin and the yang. Everything that he is shortcoming on, I tend to have that strength, and the opposite goes for him. Things that I'm horrible at, he's very good at. And we experienced that this week because, as we said last week, I had a little mini stroke last week and took me off my game for a few days. And Chris had to step up and filling in my shoes. Well, when filling in my shoes, he also changed them a little bit. So when I went to put them back on, they don't fit exactly like they did before, because he took the opportunity to improve on some things that I was doing. And that's just that's how we work together, is we acknowledge and respect each other's strengths and weaknesses, but together it makes us stronger. It makes us a much, much stronger team because of the fact that we have that relationship. And Chris, I've told you before, I really thank you for doing that this week.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. It was my pleasure, as the Chick-fil-A people would say. William Haynes says the Statue of Liberty should have a twin called the Statue of Personal Responsibility.
It's true. That's true. Chris got in the program, but he was the one that kept me doing this. I had a dream, and y'all can read about this or watch it on the podcast if you go back to 49, 50, 51 along in there. But where Chris tells my story. But I had this concept that my business experience could help people in the trucking business. I just didn't know how to get the word out. And I was frustrated, about ready to give up on it, because all I was getting were truck drivers. I wasn't getting these kind of people like we have now. And Chris Polk answered the call. We found each other just happenstance on Facebook, but he was exactly the person that I needed to prove that this thing worked, and I was exactly what he needed to get his situation turned around. And I think he will acknowledge that to this day, that he's much better now for joining forces with me. I know I am.
Mm-hmm.
And together we've kind of let this evolve into what it is today. It's pretty much what we started out with, but the big difference now is that we have this outreach called the podcast that provides us with the people that want to learn this, because they've watched hours and hours and hours of this podcast, and they understand what the problems are in the industry and how we have problems or answers for those problems, albeit 100% different than most people would answer them. But that, again, going back to that truth searching, that's what we are. We are the truth that you search for when you're trying to find out about how to run a trucking company. We'll tell you the truth. It might not be popular. It might not be shared by very many other people. That's why they call us lunatics. But the problem, the bottom line is that we have the proof of concept, and we've proven it over and over and over again. I've proven it today, this very day. So
I always love the ones that it's a backhanded remark. Well, everybody doesn't do business the way you do. Okay. Well, it doesn't work for everybody. Well, that's where you're wrong, because having a low cost of operation, having an efficient operation works every time.
Every time.
In every market. It worked
for every business.
It worked when the rates were $5 a mile, and it works when the rates are $2 a mile.
And it works for hamburger stands and trucking companies and whorehouses. It doesn't matter what kind of business it is. It will always work better if you lower your cost of doing business, and are interested in doing what it takes to do that.
Yeah. The thing that I wish, is, if it was there one thing. Yeah, here's one thing. And it doesn't matter if you have your own authority. It doesn't matter if you're leased to a carrier. It doesn't matter if you have a paid for truck, or you have a truck payment, or you're leasing a truck. Does not matter. Here's the one thing. If you can't hustle, don't do it. If you cannot get up off of your butt and work when you don't want to work, and work when you don't feel like working, and if you don't have the ability to maybe even look at your family and say, sorry guys, I can't right now, do not buy a truck.
Or go into business.
Like, don't do it. If you can't hustle,
it requires 100% commitment from you, your family.
Yep.
There is no substitute for the effort and the commitment that you have to put out. A lot of people, they get in business to get revenge on their boss. If you're trying to replace your boss, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. That's not the reason to do it. The only reason you do this is you've always had that burning, that burning in your gut to be your own boss, to be able to leave your own legacy, to be able to establish yourself and establish a product or a service that is superior to what you have found and experienced yourself. And if you're doing it just because you don't like the way your boss acts or you don't like the way he does things, you're going to find out very soon that he does a lot of things you don't have any idea he does. And if you knew everything he did, you wouldn't hate him so much. Because most people who fail in business are trying to do this because they don't like their job and they want to replace their job with their own business. And that's a horrible way to do this, a horrible reason to do it. Um, Being in business for yourself is the most rewarding thing in the world, but you have to understand it requires 100% commitment. And even though people say that, they throw that word out there, 110% all the time, there's no such thing as 110%. Most people can't hardly pull together 50%, much less 110. But to do this and to do any business and be successful, you have to give it 100%. That means everything that you can muster every time, every day, every minute, regardless of the other things that we wish you could do. Those all become secondary. The closest thing to having a business is having a baby, and you all know how that's like. What that's like, there's no giving it back. There's no, once you make that commitment, you've got it. And you've got it for 18 years. This is not much different than that. Fortunately, nobody dies if you fail. Well, hopefully nobody dies, but
Right.
your business certainly dies, and all the benefits that go with it will die with it, and all the financial freedom that you could have had with it dies with it. But you have to understand when you start this out, it's not an easy decision. It's not one that you do just because you don't like something your boss did. You don't do it because you found a good deal on a truck, and I just couldn't pass it up. You always can pass it up because you don't realize what you're getting yourself into until you pull the curtain back and see what it's like. Which is why we do what we do. We've had a lot of people that come here that did not stay and succeed. It's not because they couldn't do it. They decided after pulling the curtain back that this is not what they want to do. Their idea of owning a truck was different than what reality was. Does that mean they failed? No, it just means that they got a dose of reality without going into debt, $150,000, and then going bankrupt to get out. So we have a lot of people come here and are highly successful. We have some that are come here and avoid disaster. I look at both those as successes. Obviously, we want to have as many people come here and be financially successful as possible. But some people aren't cut out for this, and they don't know it until they get here and get in the truck and find out what it's like to have to do with the things you have to do to run a profitable business. Because there's a big difference between driving a truck and driving a truck for profit. And people find out that the first week here, and sometimes that makes them uneasy, uncomfortable. Why do you have such high revenue goals? Because that's what it takes to make money.
Yep.
So that's, they find out that all the reasons that we do things are the way that businesses in general across the board, things that they do to stay in business and to be successful in business. We just give it to them on a grassroots level here. Probably good, Chris, Tim, took good time, Chris, to remind people what we do here and what, because a lot of people get confused when they watch our podcast about what we do. Y'all truck drivers or brokers or what? So why don't you take a minute and explain to people exactly what we do here and why we do it, how we do it.
Excuse me. I have some what we do here is we provide an opportunity for you to learn like Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. Right now, if you don't get that reference, go watch the original one. But in that movie, he's teaching him to wax the car and paint the fence and paint the house and all this stuff, and he doesn't realize what he's learning while he's working. And what we do is we give you the opportunity. We show you the daily routines and habits that you have to have as a business owner. There are things that we do that are absolutely unnecessary for a company driver, for an employee. Doesn't matter. But if you want to be in business and you want to stay in business and succeed in business, your daily life and every decision that you make and every process has to be habitual. You have to have the habits of a business owner. And so we teach you that over 18 months. It's 18 months because we've got to get his 50 years of business and my 25 years of trucking into you in 18 months. And we need 18 months of profitable operation to help pay for it, because we won't charge you anything for it. You're just learning while you work. But we take a lot of risk because people come in to a very finely tuned, highly profitable operation that takes that hustle that I was talking about. And it's kind of like, if you turned a treadmill wide open and tried to step on it. Well, if the first time you do that, you're going to fall. And so people come in the first few weeks and they make a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes cost money. They're either in lost revenue or bad fuel mileage. So we take a lot of risk on the front end of your experience here, because we have to eat your mistakes. If you're the guy that comes in here that we really like, and you work 4 or 5 months and you lay a truck over and destroy the truck, the trailer, the load, and the property, well, we're paying those thousands of dollars in deductibles. If you come in and you don't get the calculator out and you don't trip plan well and we lose a load, we don't make any money. Now, of course, the driver always gets paid. The driver gets paid first before anybody else. We get what's left over. So we take a lot of risk. And so it's expensive on that side. And that's why we need 18 months so that you can generate enough profit with that truck to make up for those mistakes that you're going to make in the beginning. It's going to happen. There's no avoiding it. Now, we have people that come in and they don't make a lot of mistakes, or they're just little mistakes. And we have people that come in and make huge mistakes, very expensive mistakes, and they wreck trucks, and they tear up equipment and transmissions and engines. And that's another thing. Everybody's like, oh, I want to get multiple trucks. Ooh, boy, you better get some Pepto-Bismol, brother, because, people, nobody, and I learned this from Larry, and he learned it the hard way. Nobody is ever going to drive your truck the way you drive it. They're not going to take care of it the way you would take care of it. They're not going to make as much money as you make. They're not going to manage the expenses as well as you do. And I can't wait for, and Seth could talk about this because he's moved on now. He's a BCO. It would be, I want to follow a few of the next people that graduate from the program, because I promise you, they're going to get better fuel mileage in their truck than they do in ours. You know why? Because they're paying.
It's their money.
It's their money. They're going to make better decisions, or they should, in their truck than they will in ours, because they're financially tied to it.
It's not that they were purposely doing it here. It's just that naturally the human instinct is, when it affects you, you try harder.
Yep. So, and my mission in life, my, to use a, religious term, people talk about their ministry. Well, that's what this is for me. I would absolutely not be involved in this if we were just hiring truck drivers and hauling freight. I have absolutely no desire to just give people jobs. I would not put up with what we have to put up with if it was just hiring truck drivers and giving them jobs. I have no desire to do that. I do this because I do not want anyone to experience what I did, which was a complete collapse of my entire life. I almost lost my home, almost lost my family. We were almost foreclosed and repossessed because of bad decisions that I made in business. And I know that people, once they figure out that there's an opportunity in being in business, there's an opportunity in owning a truck, I want them to understand that if you do it the right way, it can be incredibly lucrative. It can be incredibly freeing, can give you unbelievable levels of liberty that you would not otherwise experience. But if you do it wrong, it will destroy your life. And so,
And unfortunately, the industry tends to lead people into the path of doing it wrong.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
there's money to be made for you doing it wrong.
Yeah, they benefit off of you doing it wrong. And that's what that's what kills me with these people that make excuses for these giant corporations, the carriers, and these leasing companies, and these banks, and these factoring companies that are making money off of you, and you're defending them. They're absolutely raping you blind. And maybe it's because you don't think there's another option, okay? But that's really no excuse. But these people are robbing you, and y'all make excuses for them. These carriers signing truck drivers up for these massive, massive lease payments. Saw one on TikTok one day, $5,600 a month. That's just the payment. It doesn't account the escrows that they're charging and the maintenance accounts they're charging and the tire accounts they're charging. It's insane that people sign up for this. And if y'all would quit signing up for it, they would quit doing it. But yet here we are. They keep doing it because y'all keep signing up for it. But it's slavery. It's indentured servitude. And you're signing up for it voluntarily. Stop it. Just stop doing it. It's not worth it to let these corporations, giant, massive corporations, publicly traded companies, get away with robbing you when you don't have to do it that way. Now, their way's the easy way. Hey, just sign this contract. No, we won't let a lawyer look at it, but just sign it. That's all you have to do. If you do it our way, well, gosh, you've got to live below your means, and you've got to get yourself out of debt, and you've got to save up cash. Well, that's the hard way. But I've never found anything worth doing that wasn't hard. So that's what we do here. We provide an opportunity for you to come and see how a very well run, very efficient operation that is making incredible profits in a time where carriers are dropping like flies because they can't afford to operate. Yet here we are, Landstar's taking 35% of our money, and yet we're unbelievably profitable. It's just crazy. But y'all keep signing up for it because you don't know how to question anything. Are these giant corporations really doing what's best for me? No, they're not. They're absolutely not doing what's best for you. They're doing what's best for them, and they're suckering you into it. And then y'all sign up for 1099s as truck drivers, as employees, and let them get you to pay their taxes for them. It's insane.
And they make you think it's to your advantage.
Yeah, they convince you that paying their taxes for them is a good deal for you.
Yeah.
I saw a question here. Here it is, Mark. I have a 2022 Freightliner Cascadia. The dealer can't fix my fuel tank. Imagine that. It will only suck up 130 to 140 gallons of diesel. Any thoughts?
Yeah, you got a crossover problem.
To me, that sounds like, but you would think it would be losing prime, but
you're now it's the same problem we have with 215. He's returning fuel more in one tank more than he is the other one. He's not got he's running one of them out of fuel, and the other one's not.
Yeah,
it's going to be a tank equalization problem.
Yeah, because you got to remember,
tanks are connected together, and they should equalize so they're both got the same amount of fuel in them all the time.
Now,
don't expect the dealer to fix it. They can't. I spent thousands of dollars trying to get that fixed. Couldn't do it.
And Carl
found it in 15 seconds
and fixed it for $50. Now, here's the thing, though. Okay, a lot of these new Cascadias, because of the one box, will have a smaller fuel tank on one side than they do on the other. Okay. Now, that makes me guess and wonder and question. Like on our old trucks, both tanks are the same size. So the fuel is taken to a T and run up to the engine. The engine does not use all of the fuel that it brings up there, and so it returns it. Well, if your tanks are the equal size, it doesn't matter how it flows. It's just going back and going into both tanks. But wouldn't there have to be some sort of engineering when you have two different size tanks so that one does not get overfilled,
It
right?
sounds reasonable. Yes.
So
I think you might be onto something there.
so that would lead me to believe that there's something in the return lines. I think we just lost Larry. There's something in the
Yeah.
return lines that would prevent that smaller tank from being overfilled, you know? So let me consult something here. Yeah, Larry's internet has gone to crap. Can you still hear me, Larry? Barely. You might have to reset your router or something because he's been having internet trouble at home. Um, but you're definitely having some sort of issue. Um, yeah, I'm only getting every other word. You might have to reset the router or something. Um, I am going to move forward here. Dwayne Johnson, do you see any change in logistics, upward trend? Yeah, I do. Because you got to understand, this is a cycle. Um, uh, we're in a cycle that um, that happens and has happened since the dawn of time. Really, um, it goes up, and when it goes up, a bunch of people jump in because they see big profits because big profits are there, and then too many people get in, and the market conditions shift, and there's too many trucks and not enough loads, and um, uh, the rates drop. Okay, well then a bunch of people that jumped in have their costs are too high, and then they go out of business. And so right now we're in this waiting period, waiting for these people to go out of business and leave the industry. That's what we're waiting for. Because if you look at the actual metrics of the available loads, the economy's not terrible. It's actually better now in 2024 than it was in like 2017, 2018 as we were going into the rise up. Um so but people are I saw TikTok today, it's the worst economy in 12. Well, it's not really. The economy itself is not terrible. There are too many trucks because too many people got in 2020 and 2021. If all of those people had not gotten in the gold rush, we wouldn't have an issue right now because there wouldn't be too many trucks. So, um, as that capacity begins to fall, I'm 100% confident that we're going to see the rates back up. But that's why we teach this business model. We teach this business model because it works right now when the rates are down, and it works when the rates are up. Consultant there, yeah, he's still gone. His internet must have crapped out on him. Can you please tell me who you guys use to in-frame Series 60? Well, send me an email, brlspodcast@gmail.com, because I'm not putting that out on the air. I'm not sure that guy wants to be put on the air, but brlspodcast@gmail.com. It's on the link in bio on TikTok. It's everywhere. Let me go back over here. Excuse me. Looking at comments. I got in trouble for paying for fuel using cash. Let's see. Not sure what that means. What that could mean, if you get in trouble for paying cash, like here at Landstar, um, if you pay cash for fuel, you have to turn that receipt in so it can be counted toward IFTA. You know, our IFTA is tracked by our fuel purchases through Comdata, and then our ELD is counting up all of the miles. And so if you're buying fuel kind of off the books and it's not being accounted for IFTA, that can cause you a problem. Let me send Larry a text. You're still out. Internet out. So that's how you can get trouble, paying cash for the fuel. All right. No more. Do you guys hire right out of truck driving school? Unfortunately, we do not. Landstar requires the people that we hire have 1 year of verifiable over the road experience. So we cannot hire people directly out of school. We found a school down it's in Louisiana or Mississippi called Three Girls Trucking Academy or something like that. And they train on manuals. So I would highly recommend you look them up on Facebook, Google, whatever. Three Girls Trucking something. But they do training on manuals. And so if you don't have driving experience and you want to do this program, highly recommend you get trained on a manual and you go find a company that will hire you and train you on a manual, and not stick you with an automatic. And whatever you do, do not go to one of these schools that's going to stick you with an automatic transmission restriction on your license. Yeah, looks like Larry has left the chat. He's had all kinds of internet problems this week, so I guess that's why. How long have we been going anyway? We've been going an hour and 3 minutes. Well, I guess I need y'all to ask some questions or something, give me something to talk about, because I have just about run out of things to talk about at this point. Trying to roll through these comments, make sure I didn't. Oh, okay. What is cost plus on fuel? Okay, so cost plus is basically what it sounds like. You're doing a deal with a truck stop chain, and what they're doing is they're giving you fuel at cost plus usually 1 or 2 pennies. When I first came to Landstar, TA and Petro were cost plus, and Pilot and Loves were a standard 25 cents off of the cash price. In the last year or two, Loves and Pilot Flying J have started doing cost plus as well, but they started out not doing it in every state. And now I think I've seen where somebody is talking about doing cost minus, meaning somehow they're selling you the fuel for less than what they paid for it. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Must be some kind of rebate program. So for the longest time, you could, about 99% of the time, you could count on TA and Petro having the cheapest fuel for BCOs. Wasn't always true. You always had to check, because sometimes what you'll see is as the price goes up, the discount will start on that cost plus will start to shrink. And I can always tell when fuel prices, retail prices are getting ready to drop, because all of a sudden our discount will get massive. I've seen our cost plus be as little as 20, 25 cents. And then all of a sudden it'll go to $1.25, $1.50, $1.70. I mean, it'll just be this massive. And I'm like, okay, retail prices are getting ready to crash because the wholesale cost has dropped so much. So there were times as the fuel prices started to rise that those places that had the standard 25 cents off would be a few pennies cheaper. But then on the other side of that, when the wholesale price dropped, then the cost plus would be way, way less than 25 cents a gallon. Since Landstar came out with the Landstar One app a couple of years ago, it's made buying fuel almost brainless. You open the app and it's green. Okay, well, it's green. That's the cheapest in that radius that I'm looking at. And so I can follow my route if I'm going to Ohio to Texas. Right now, I saw fuel in Ohio today for like $2.60 something. And down in, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, it's $3, it's usually the opposite of that. A lot of times it'll be higher up here than it is down there, but this time it's opposite, So I set up a fuel routing for someone today to fill up in Ohio and Arkansas, because those were the two cheapest. It was like the Flying J in Franklin, Ohio, and the TA in Prescott, Arizona, because those were the cheapest that I could find on that route. And you always buy fuel when it's on sale. So I don't care if you bought fuel 300 miles ago. If you're passing the cheapest place you're going to get to in the next 600 miles, you better fill up. What companies do I recommend for a rookie driver? I really can't. I used to say that you could pretty much go anywhere. It didn't matter. You could get your experience at Swift or Schneider, US Express, didn't matter. But now that they've gone all automatic, and the institutionalization of the thing has gotten so bad, I'm going to recommend, and you're just going to have to do the work. You're just going to have to make a lot of phone calls and talk to a lot of different people. And you're going to have to look for smaller carriers that are willing to take the risk. And it's a big risk hiring new drivers. You're going to have to find smaller carriers that are keeping older trucks, or they're, run by kind of old school people that don't like automatics, but they're not easy to find. And the only way you're going to find them is Google searches and making phone calls. And it's not easy, unfortunately. You're just going to have to do a lot of research and a lot of legwork and a lot of phone calls in order to find those, because they're getting much, much harder to find. Send Phil a gallon of max mileage. Okay. Okay. How do you break down the IFTA, company discount, et cetera, on fuel purchases? Is there a website outside of Landstar that can help other operators? Yeah, there's one called, let me Google it real quick, make sure I remember. I think it's Find Fuel Stops. Truckmaster Fuel Finder. Yeah, it's findfuelstops.com. And so you can put in an origin and a destination, and you can filter different truck stop chains. And then it will ask you, it's been a long time since I used this, where you want to remove the IFTA from that, because what you're interested in is the cost of the fuel. You do not buy fuel based on IFTA ever. The IFTA does not matter when you are choosing where to fuel. IFTA is a consumption tax. It is not a sales tax. IFTA is calculated on the number of gallons you burn in a state. So if you don't like Pennsylvania's 70 some cents per gallon fuel tax, your only option is to not drive in Pennsylvania. If you drive in Pennsylvania, you owe them for fuel tax, period. The fuel tax is paid in at the pump the same way that FICA is pulled out of your paycheck every week. All right. And then at the end of the year, you file a return, and you've either paid too much or you paid too little. IFTA works the same way. It's filed quarterly. You're paying IFTA tax every time you buy fuel. And when the return is calculated, you have A, paid too much and you get a refund, or B, you've not paid enough and you have to pay. That's it. So we do not consider IFTA when we are buying fuel. I want to know what's the cost of the fuel, what we'll call the net fuel price. So there's the marquee, and in our case, there's the Landstar discount taken out, and then there's the IFTA taken out. I want to know what's the cost of the net fuel price, and that's how I will make my decision. I could not care less how much IFTA is. People that tell you to only buy it in the high tax states or only buy it in the low tax states, they can't use one of these. Oops. There it went. The calculator. Okay. You do not make decisions on where you buy fuel based on IFTA, period, ever. Doesn't matter. If you drive in that state, you owe that state for tax, period. So you never, ever, ever consider fuel tax when you are buying fuel. You want to know what the cost of the fuel. So, okay, Jackknife TV. IFTA is not my strong suit, but I always get a rebate. That doesn't matter. And the way I was informed when I first started years ago is to try to get fuel in the state that you run in the most once in a while to keep IFTA low. No, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. If you buy all of your fuel in West Virginia, where it's 35.7 cents, and then you drive all of your miles in Pennsylvania, you owe Pennsylvania fuel tax. Okay. And there's one way, there's two ways you're going to pay it. You're going to pay it when you buy that fuel, or you're going to write them a check. The only way to avoid Pennsylvania's high fuel tax is to not drive in that state, period. So if you make a decision to buy fuel based on IFTA, you could be paying too much for the fuel. That's what we're trying to get to. Let's just buy the diesel and let the fuel tax work itself out with the return. The rebate at the end of the year, you could look at your statement and say, well, I got a rebate every time. Okay. But how much, in what cases did you pay too much for the fuel because you were trying to get a rebate? It's like people that have their employer pull more money out of their checks so that they get a big return from the government at the end of the year. Well, you're going to pay the tax either way. So why not? I'll take the money and not give the government an interest-free loan. I would rather take that money and put it in the savings account and make now 3 or 4% on it than give it to the government and let them use it for free. So we do not ever make decisions based on fuel tax. And like I said, with Landstar, it's super easy. You open the Landstar One app and it says, get fuel here. So Larry says he's watching on his phone on TikTok and he doesn't have internet. Okay. So that sucks, but it is what it is. IFTA starts more fights than Budweiser, man. And to me, it's super simple to understand. You just have to separate them. IFTA is something that you're going to pay, whether you paid at the pump or you write them a check. The diesel, and we always give this example in our training session. There's a TA on I-90 in Kingsville, Ohio, and there's a TA on I-90 in Erie, Pennsylvania. Let me open up. I'm going to open up Landstar One right now. And I'm going to go to the TA in Kingsville. Okay, here's both of them right here. I'm looking at them on my phone. All right. Right now, the TA in Kingsville is $260, and the TA in Erie is $280. That's the net cost of the fuel. In Pennsylvania, the fuel tax is 78 cents, and the fuel tax in Ohio is 47 cents. Now, in this case, which is rare, the fuel is actually cheaper in Ohio than it is in Pennsylvania. But there are lots of times, and here's what it looks like. It just shows up as green. It's kind of blurry, but in most cases that I have seen, the TA in Erie will be cheaper. Oh, we have Larry back. Cheaper. All right, mute yourself.
I'm doing no. Yeah. I just heard it in my ear, and just all of a sudden I heard you talking. So I'm back.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen. So
I don't know how long, but here I am. So
what we can't do, okay, is we can't. And I used to run I-90 every single week. Every week I would go on my dedicated run. I went 79 across 68, up 81, up into upstate New York, came back across 90, back down 79 or 77, back home. And I had to look every single week to make sure, was I going to get fuel in Erie or was I going to get fuel in Kingsville, because it would change. right? I couldn't just say, oh, it's always cheaper in Pennsylvania. Jeffersonville, Ohio TA was notoriously forever the cheapest fuel around, but you cannot rely on that. You've got to do the math every single day. You've got to open, if you're at Landstar, you've got to open Landstar 1 every single day and check where that fuel is cheapest. Effingham, Illinois, there's a pilot, a Flying J, a TA, and a Petro. And on any given day of the week, any one of those 4 can be cheaper than the other one, but you'll never know unless you open the app and look. All right. I'm looking through some more. Oh, yeah. There is an entire episode on IFTA that we have done. I can't tell you right offhand what number
It's
it
pretty
is.
early on, Chris.
Well, we redid it. We made another. We did an updated version. There's an early one, and then we did an updated version. I don't know. It's probably within the last year. So it's in the hundreds somewhere. But you can go to the website, blueribbonlogistics.com, and you can see a whole list of the audio. And then you can go to our YouTube channel and just search through until you find it. Let's see. Looking through more comments, see if any more questions. Usually IFTA gets everybody fired up. Yeah, I don't see much. Well, I'm glad we have you back, but I'm not sure we have much left to talk about. Rolling with Ryan said he finally caught y'all live. Well, welcome, Rolling with Ryan. Phil's got people talking. I think, I wouldn't testify to this, but I think if you're an outside carrier, don't you get access to Landstar 1?
I've heard that, yes.
I can't testify to it, but that fine fuel stops. And what's the guy we interviewed? The guy out in Colorado has got that. What's the name of that company? Somebody help.
Talking about? I can't think of the name of his company.
The guy that has all the fuel data and the mileage data.
Right. I can't think of the name of his company.
Somebody remember for us. But he's got their job. There we go. Phil said episode 179 is the IFTA episode. But their job is gathering all of this data. We interviewed him on our own podcast, and he wanted to do a sponsorship deal, and I can't even remember the poor guy's name. Let's see. Now it's driving me nuts. I got to go find it. I'm still looking. 75.
No, we cannot hire guys straight out of driving school.
Pro Miles. It's called Pro Miles.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Because they're super, super, super deep in all of this data, and they have fuel optimization things and but find fuel stops. If you don't have at Landstar 1, find fuel stops is a good way. That's the way we always did it before in Landstar 1. Is you have to kind of calculate your own discount. You have to know what your programs are, but it will at least drop the IFTA out and show you the difference in the fuel going that way.
And it ranks the stops highest to lowest in price.
Yeah. But Pro Miles was the guy that we talked to. Okay, let me go back to Rolling with Ryan. 2024 is kicking off strong. Yeah, listen, I mean, so far, we've had a really good. Let's see. Let me look at our year to date right now. We're at $3.13 with 21% deadhead so far in January. That ain't bad. Given the state of the market, I'll take it. David asking a good question. He's looking at platforms. What's ideal, 53-foot flat or 53-foot step deck? I'm going to tell you from what I have witnessed, go with a flatbed. We have a 51-foot step deck that has just been more challenging, but asterisk. For what we're trying to do, training people on the business side, the step deck is a little more difficult to find that regular legal freight. If you want to do the high, wide, and heavy stuff, you want to really specialize yourself, the step deck can be better suited for that. But for what we're trying to do, which is keep people on consistent levels of revenue, the flatbed is better for us.
Side note, that 51-foot step deck is available for rent.
Yeah, I got to do some work to it, so it'll be a couple of weeks. But yes, we are going to lease out that 51-foot step deck. So if any of you Landstar people are dying to have a step deck, we got one that we will lease to you. So
yeah, it's not really going to be a lease purchase; it's a weekly rental.
Yeah, like rental. You operate it, you drag it, and then we'll come up with some kind of deal for you. But like I said, if you want to specialize, that's a different deal, But I would, and like Phil says, 53-foot flat is the best, hands down. Especially if you don't have any prior experience, and you're kind of getting into it new. I would go with the flatbed, and then later you can make the decision on all these different varying. My gosh, there's 1,000 options that you can do. What motor and rear end gears do you prefer? Well, we prefer the Detroit Diesel Series 60. That's our preferred engine. And so our rear end gear is determined on what transmission is connected to that Detroit Series 60. That Series 60 runs best at 1,350 RPMs. So what's a reasonable speed to get that motor in the sweet spot? We've calculated that to be about 62 miles an hour. So you're either you're going to have a overdrive transmission, which is going to be a 10 or a 13 speed. They're going to have the same final drive, which is 0.73. That means you're going to have a 358. If you're going to have a direct drive 10 speed, you're going to run a 264. Now, I don't know Cummins and Cat. I don't know what their sweet spot is. I'm not sure what the DD15 is. And these newer trucks are all downsped. And so, good grief, they're making their power at 1,000, 1,200 RPMs. But for the Series 60, it is 358s with an overdrive, 264s with a direct drive.
That's ideal for fuel mileage.
For fuel mileage, which fuel is your number one cost. So you better be in the business of managing fuel. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were talking about getting into RGN. And I'm like, RGN is not your first step. That's not where you start. You need to start with a flatbed. And you need to learn all there is about securement and the freight and start building relationships. And then if you get into a position where you can make the investment of time, you can do an RGN, but especially a place like Landstar, we don't have the RGN freight like some other places do. Make your money, go find whatever makes the most money. That's where it starts.
Let me make a comment, okay?
Go ahead.
We had one of our drivers. We teach our drivers to do everything they can to create good relationships with the agents, because that's who our customers are. And one of our drivers has a survey that he sends every agent after he pulls one of their loads.
Yep.
Asking them what he could have done to have made the experience better for them. Wow, how strong is that? Well, anyway, we got a response today on it. And here's what it says. His question was, are there any ways I could improve to help provide better service in the future? The response back from the agent was, we'd like to use more blue ribbon drivers, and because our offices had great experience with their drivers and dispatchers. That's what we're here to teach. This is how you stay in business, is having people want to do business with you and your trucks and your drivers. And so this is exactly what we are here to do, is to teach truck drivers how this is how you stay in business, not getting on Facebook and talking bad about brokers and wanting to take their money away from them because you can't make it on your own. This is how we make money right here. That's how you're going to succeed in this business, is developing a relationship with your customer where they want you to do their work. And I can't stress how important that is. But how many truck drivers would put themselves out there and ask this question after they get done hauling load? Hey, what could have I done to make this better for you? I mean, most of them are going to run from that, not run to it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hey, click that button to switch over to your microphone. You're on your AirPods right now.
Okay.
Is there a dispatch deal with the flats like Chris has with the vans? It's limited. It's
Does that matter? That help?
No, I still don't think it changed.
I just gave you permission to change it.
All right, try that. See what happens. There we go. I think we're in business now.
Is that better?
Oh, yeah, so much better.
Okay, good.
So David, get in touch with us and we can have a talk about that, because we do have limited opportunities, but there potentially is an opportunity there. Is it better to pay $600 for an oil change or to spend the cost of an OPS? Can an OPS be installed on a DD15? Yes. Yes. Episode 108 of the podcast, you can go through and we talk in detail about the OPS. But with an OPS, you don't have to dump the oil unless the lab sample tells you to. So why dump perfectly good oil if it doesn't need to be changed? So the OPS allows you to do a 25,000 mile oil sample, and the oil sample will tell you exactly what the condition of your oil is and what the condition of the inside of your engine is. And do you have coolant intrusion? Do you have fuel dilution? It will tell you all of that. And then if you find that you do have low base, or you have, different metals or coolant intrusion or fuel dilution, then dump the oil. But don't, especially as much as oil and oil changes cost now, the cost of the OPS installed is $1,200 or $1,300. And then it's $110 every time you do a sample. Okay. So let me get the BSE 9000 out. So it's a $55 filter and a $55 kit. So that's $110. You do that every 25,000 miles. So let's say you run 125,000 miles in a year divided by 25,000. That means you're going to do 5 samples in a year times $110. That's $550 to do your samples. You're only going to dump that oil, or in normal cases, you're only going to dump that oil every 50,000, especially with a DD15. Okay. And you're going to change your filters every 50,000 miles. All right. So now you're going into the TA saying, all right, I need you to change 1 filter every 25,000 and 2 filters every 50,000, and we do a chassis lube every 12,500. So that's $35. So 1 oil change now almost covers you for an entire year running an OPS, especially if you don't have to dump the oil. And we've seen trucks go to 250,000 miles in between oil changes. Larry's truck has 1.8 million and it's only ever had 4 oil changes. And a couple of those were just because we were trying different kinds of oil, but it never had a sample ever that said to change the oil. We either changed it because like we had cracked heads, right? And they had to dump everything out because they had to take the engine apart. Well, we changed the oil, right? But never because the oil sample told us to. Richie's truck went 260,000, and it started, what was the iron was high or something? I can't remember. But we changed the oil, but 260,000 miles. And you can run higher quality oil since you're not going to be dumping it all the time. So, you know, to me, it's a no-brainer. Do we run for Steve Vest? No, Steve was just a friend we made on YouTube or on TikTok. He mainly does a lot of box truck and sprinter van kind of loads. I'm sure he does some truckload stuff as well. He's got a Landstar agent that he works with, and we would certainly pull Steve's freight if it was available. But I'm not sure that the kind of freight that he runs would be beneficial to us. But he is certainly someone I can tell is a real businessman. And if if he had a load, I would certainly hire it. So yeah, somebody answered your question. Larry's the owner. I'm the fleet manager. Yeah, and the DD15s, and I'm sure the PACCARs and all those are that way now. They're already kind of doing extended drains, 50, 60,000 miles, depending on how you run it before you change oil. So, but the big thing, set that aside for a second. The big thing is these oil samples that you're getting every 25,000 miles. So every, 8 to 10 weeks, you're finding out exactly what is going on inside that engine. Now, if you're, if you are, oh boy, the train just left the building. I don't even remember what I was getting ready to say. Wow. Willie Lee, Pittsburgh Power recommended at least having 75,000 minimum prior to installing OPS, FAST, and ECM mods. I might on ECM mods, but I'm gonna put the OPS and FAST on it day one. And they've made some updates to the FAST now also that we found interesting. Because for the longest time we had a FAST on Larry's truck, but we didn't put them on the rest of the trucks because it's an additional amount of maintenance. And when you're dealing with employee drivers, you can't buy the filters everywhere. It was a little risky. But I hear, what was the change that they made? It goes into the
installation has gone from like 10 hours down to just a couple hours.
Yeah.
You don't have to create that return line. It's built in.
Right. So that's
You just
kind
have to drill the tanks and do this extensive plumbing work, to get the return lines in. And
yeah.
And now that's built into the pump.
So that's definitely worth doing. But the DD15s, they're a lot tighter. And I think that's where we run into issues with drivers that are new to the industry, not checking their oil, which you should be doing. But people are shocked when they say we're used to adding a gallon of oil every 8 or 10,000 miles. Well, there must be something wrong with the truck. No, since the beginning of trucking, trucks used oil, but these newer engines don't consume as much oil as the older one did. Juan, we've already answered your question. I'm the fleet manager. Larry's the owner. And somebody in the comments answered it as well. But the knowing what's happening inside that engine, how are you going to know if you've got fuel dilution? Now, what if you got a leaky injector? How are you going to know if you've got coolant intrusion? Those are things that will destroy your engine from the inside, and you'll never know. So even if you chose not to do the extended drains, having that oil sample is a huge advantage to knowing what's going inside your engine. I know what I was trying to think of a minute ago. With the newer emissions, and you're doing a diesel force cleaning, for example, well, that comes with an oil change, right? So you have to consider that if you're doing extended drains, at some point you're going to get to a point where they're going to run all that foam through there. And nobody's ever said this, but I'm thinking, I don't know, should you disconnect that OPS while you're doing the diesel force cleaning? I don't know. Maybe we should ask Pittsburgh Power that. I guess the foam would just go through and help clean it out. But the the big thing is, preventative maintenance on these emission systems. And we've learned a ton from Chase and the guys at DPF Alternatives. And they've helped a lot understanding these emission systems and how to keep them clean, and how to understand, what's going on with them and the structural issues, and I had no idea that just yanking the filters out of them and clean them is not necessarily fixing your problem if you're not doing a structural inspection, making sure there's no cracks in the outside housing that need to be welded up that are letting other contaminants inside that box. And if the alleged certified professional that you're dealing with doesn't know how to look that thing over and make sure that there's not some other issue that you're doing. If you run max mileage, do you need to do a diesel force cleaning? So we're told that we use DPF Alternatives, we'll take filters out and send them down there and have them cleaned. And if you run the max mileage, you get a lifetime warranty. So if I'm going to bring a truck in that I'm unfamiliar with and I don't know how it's been cared for over 500,000 or 600,000 miles, I'm probably going to do a diesel force cleaning and then I'm going to run the catalyst.
The recommendation is every 2 years, Chris.
I'm sorry?
Every 2 years. The recommendation is every 2 years, run the catalyst, getting the diesel force cleaning.
Okay. So there is a recommendation to do both. Now, our friend Steve Wheeler, he won a truck from Landstar, so he got it brand new day one. He's run the catalyst from day one, and he uses an APU so he doesn't idle the truck. And I think he said, and it's been a couple of years. Well, he won that in 2020, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that truck's 3 or 4 years old. It's never done a parked regen. As of the last time I talked to Steve a few months ago, running the catalyst and not idling, and that truck has never done a forced regen or never done a parked regen. So, I mean, that speaks for itself right there. And we run the catalyst on anything from 2004 up. So if it has EGR, if it has SCR, DPF, of course we avoid 08 to 15. We don't run or own trucks in that. But we run the catalyst in everything that has any kind of emission system on it from EGR up. David, I guess you could turn off the supply valve, the valve on the supply line. But it's just, one of those questions that kind of made me think out loud. If you should somehow cut the OPS off from the diesel force cleaning, but I don't guess it would hurt. You just change the filter. It's going to get cleaned. Proper specs are vital for that. My 2017 Volvo's never done one in 750,000 miles. So Rod, are you running the catalyst in that? I mean, we're huge believers in that product because we've seen, we had a 16 Cascadia we brought in a few years back, and when we got it, it was lights all over the dash. We had it diesel force cleaned, and ran the catalyst in it, and never had any problem. Did you guys like paper logs back in the day? Not really. I mean, I cheated like hell, like we all did. But I'm not a go back to paper logs guy. I'm not going to be the outlier that the road pirate is going to spend more time on. So I just learned, I've been on electronic logs since January of 2011. All right. So that's what, it was 10 years. I ran 10 years on ELD. And what it did was it made me a better planner. So I never had issues. If you have issues with an ELD that you think a paper log is going to fix, it's because you suck at trip planning. It's your fault. You're going to move heaven and earth to drive a 1999 model truck so you can run paper logs because you can't use the calculator and you suck at trip planning. It's your fault. The ELD is not your problem. You're the problem. As in most cases that truck drivers try to find some nonsense way around something when you could fix it by just being more responsible. It's just, and I remember there was a time at some point along the way that I had an ELD malfunction and I had to run paper. Oh my God, what a nightmare. What
It
an
didn't hurt.
absolute
It didn't
nightmare
keep me
to deal with.
it didn't keep me from making a bunch of money at FedEx.
Oh, right. It's just, it's just bullshit excuses from truck drivers, trying to find somebody or something to blame for their inadequacy. That's the problem with your hatred of paper logs and your hatred of brokers and everything else. And I'm going to say what Larry said that set the internet on fire about a year ago. The only reason y'all hate brokers is because they're better at their job than you are at yours. Period. And so these mouth breathing knuckle draggers that just keep spouting this bullshit, this absolutely verifiably untrue nonsense, because it sounds good, because they believe everything they think, and they don't have the common sense or intelligence to actually learn how the industry that they work in operates. I'm on a rant. I better stop. Stop blaming other people for your own failures. Just look in the mirror and say, all right, there's the problem. It's him or her. All right.
And it's fixable.
Yeah. 100% fixable. You get your head out of your ass, but most people don't want to do that. Like that baby sitting in a diaper full of poop. Well, I know it stinks, but it's warm and it's mine. And I like it.
Good analogy.
Rocky says they think they need to drive 200 hours a week to make $1. Listen, I did that cowboy shit back in the day, right? Running 90 mile an hour with my hair on fire. Well, that doesn't work when you're in business. It just doesn't. When I see these chromed out trucks blowing by me at 80 miles an hour with black smoke rolling out, I know that guy's not an owner operator, or he won't be for long. Richie says, my only issue with the laws on ELD is I'm usually not tired when I stop, so I'm going to wait for another 4 or 5 hours after my day ends. Well, fortunately, I don't have that problem. When I get done with 11-hour day, I go straight from the seat to the bed and I'm out, and I sleep my 8-9 hours and get up and do it over again. So I don't usually have that problem. You take that Xbox out of your truck, Richie, you get a lot more sleep. Well, we've got 1 hour and 46 minutes. I think we've hit all of the comments.
I was going to talk a little bit about FinCEN if you want me to.
Oh, go ahead. Please do.
Well, so all the rage right now on social media is this new law that's been passed that's going to make you have to reveal more information to the government about who owns your business. And I went to a lot of trouble today to research that. Plus, I talked to my CPA, and she informed me of a lot of things I wasn't aware of either. But here's the bottom line on the deal. There was a new law passed. It's part of the financial. Let me bring the website up so I don't misquote it.
I'll find the bullshit name for it.
It's FINCEN is the name of the website. .gov.
FinCEN.
It's part of that.
Financial Crimes Enforcement Network.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So this is all about trying to find money launderers or people that are funding terrorist groups and trying to identify who's behind them. So there's no more information you're providing them, and you don't already provide your state when you set up your corporation in your state. It's no different. You're just giving it to a different bureau. The reality of it is, if you formed your LLC prior to January of 2024, you've got till January of 2025 to file this form. If you formed your LLC after January 2024, you've got 30 days to do it after the day you formed it. There's some substantial penalties for not doing it. It's up to $500 a day, $10,000 on top of that, and then 2 years in jail. So they're pretty serious about it. And most LLCs are required to complete it. Now, there is some exemptions, and CPAs are not going to stick their neck out and and verify whether you qualify for the exemption or not, you're going to have to go through a lawyer to do that. CPAs have been told they're not lawyers and they're not able to make that determination. So that's a legal question, not an accounting question. But there are 23 exemptions from this that, I looked at them. I don't think very many trucking companies are going to make it, but one of them is you have to have publicly held, do $5 million in business, have over 20 employees. There's probably some trucking companies that can meet that, obviously, but probably not very many LLCs.
I'm looking at this website. And this is hilarious. Okay. I'm looking at the 23 exemptions. All right.
Yep.
Securities reporting issuer, governmental authority, bank, credit union, broker or dealer in securities, security exchange or clearing agency, other exchange act, venture capital fund advisor, insurance company. These are the people that shouldn't get the exemptions. You know who should get the exemptions? Me. You know?
Right. These are the guys who are in a situation to do all this money laundering.
Tax exempt entity. Oh, listen, like there's not money laundering like you wouldn't believe through these 501c3s. Lord, what a
right
joke.
Exactly. Anyway, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing that you're going to divulge here that you haven't already divulged to your state. It's just a bunch of fear mongering. Relax. Not a big deal. I filled out the form today. It's nothing to it. It's a PDF that you do electronically, and really nothing to it. If you're an LLC and your Secretary of State established you in your state, there you've already done everything that you're going to do here. You're just going to do it again, and and if you're not laundering money or funding terrorists, you got nothing to worry about anyway. So, and if you're doing that, then you're probably a regular taxpayer and paying the IRS. That's the most funding of terrorist group that I know of right there. So
yeah,
I'll let Chris elaborate on that, but
taxation is theft. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's hilarious that, I mean, the things that politicians and bureaucrats say out loud with no sense of irony whatsoever is just hilarious to me. Like y'all are the ones that are going to talk about money laundering. Really?
Right.
Y'all are going to talk about money laundering?
Have you heard of this country called Ukraine?
Yeah. Y'all are going to talk to me about,
right.
truth and reporting. Yeah, I think y'all should sit down and shut up. That's what I think y'all should do.
Yeah.
There's a big list I saw today because all that kerfluffle going on at the border in Texas. And it was a big image, and it was like all of the Republican governors that were supporting Governor Abbott, and Jim Justice was on there. And look at all these Republican governors. And I said, hey, I just need y'all to understand that Jim Justice is a crook, a thief, an authoritarian psychopath, and a moron. Okay. So anything that he's in favor of does not necessarily mean it's a thing that you should be in favor of,
Footnote here, Jim Justice is Chris's governor in the great state of West Virginia.
Yeah.
He's one of Chris's personal heroes.
Yeah.
Especially his little dog.
Yeah. Him and his stupid dog. And he's running for federal Senate, by the way,
Good for him.
Yeah.
That means you guys are a good new governor.
Lord,
is he going to resign, or is he going to?
Well, his 15 minutes are up. He's had 2 terms.
Okay, so he's done anyway.
Yeah, he's done.
He's got nothing to lose then, right?
Yeah. Well, and I guess you saw that the FMCSA administrator is, I guess, allegedly stepping down because she got caught being at a dinner with I don't know, unions or corporations or something, and she's stepping down. And everybody's talking about it. And I'm like, well, hey, have no fear, citizen. They will replace her with somebody worse. Absolutely. Don't y'all worry. They will find the most despicable, disgusting person that they can find to make the head of the FMCSA. So
like a mayor from up around Notre Dame.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just the whole thing. And I don't mean to be dismissive of it.
Yeah, you do.
I kind of am. But if the government, any government, doesn't matter if it's U.S. or Israel or Iran or whoever, if it was really as powerful as y'all thought it was, we'd be in big trouble. Like, right, like if it was truly had the magical powers that some people believe that it does, like it's Santa Claus, you know, or the Easter Bunny, or the fairy godmother, we'd be screwed if it was really that powerful. But it's just really not. It's a bunch of fluff and rhetoric and you know, and they just sit up there and they talk, and they don't mean anything that they're saying. Like the clean truck thing. I was reading, Phil sent me that, and I was reading through this utopian pipe dream that they've got out there in California. That we're getting rid.
Listen, that's the home of utopian pipes. They should
Yeah.
have dreams out there.
Yeah, crack pipes. But they're phasing out internal combustion engines. You know,
I wish them
and
the best of luck with that.
yeah, I do too.
This is a state that's already broke and produces all kinds of produce that has to be hauled out of there.
Mhm.
And
but their plan is by 2028, and you can't run a truck with over 800,000 miles on it. And all I can see as I'm reading this is truck sales. This doesn't have anything to do with the environment.
right.
This is to sell trucks, right? We're not going to run trucks over 800,000 miles. That means one truck in our fleet, one
Can go to California. Yeah. Yeah.
because we've got one truck under 800,000 miles. Hell, I think Richie's at 1.8, you know. But by the way, do y'all realize how easy it is to change the odometer in a big truck? Well, the Freightliner especially. You just take the cluster out and put a new cluster in, and it's back to zero. Like that. I mean, it's just such mind-numbing nonsense. You know, the 9 scariest words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. You know, it's crazy. All right. Well, I think we've stirred up enough trouble for one episode. I'm ready for bed. It's 10 o'clock.
Let's remind the people of some things coming up.
Yeah.
The Louisville Truck Show is March 21 through 23.
Yep.
That's a Thursday through Saturday. We're going to be there. Friday, we're going to be at the Pittsburgh Power Booth, and they're surrounding it. That's where all of our
Vendors,
manufacturers and vendors and suppliers that we use their products are going to be. And then on Saturday, we're going to be at the Landstar booth to talk to potential program participants. And then if you want to come have just a little meet and greet, we're going to be at the casino in Southern Indiana called Caesars over in Elizabeth, Indiana. That's where we're staying, by the way. But we're going to be in the casino. We're going to have a little just informal get together at the bar down there in the casino. If y'all the podcast just want to get together, meet each other, put a name to a face, and put comments to a face, and y'all have a knockdown drag out right there. We'll have plenty of drinks and watch you. So, but that's what we got coming up. So we hope everybody can come. If you haven't been to the truck show, it's really something for you to see, because you're in this industry, you'll learn a lot there, meet a lot of people, see a lot of things. And then if you want to, socialize with podcast people, we'll do that on Thursday night. All of our people will understand we're going to have our company dinner on Saturday night, but that's not open to the public, and that's a private event. But we'll be doing that Saturday night. So, if you want to meet some of our guys, all of our people will be there. We put them up in a hotel on Saturday. They'll all be there Saturday. So if you want to meet some of these people and talk to like Richie or Phil or Barb or some of the people that we talk about all the time, they'll be there, and you can find them at the truck show and talk with them. And that's what we got going on in the month of March. So it's coming up before we know it. So we hope to see some of you guys there. Okay.
And if you come to the truck stop and plan on causing any trouble, just understand Richie's in charge of security, right? So you can be well armed.
Right. He's usually well
well
equipped.
armed. Yeah, well equipped. All right, y'all. Well, we will be back with you next Friday, February 2nd. Hard to believe January's gone. I mean, just gone.
Yeah. And just on a personal note, I'm doing fine. My voice is a little weak, but physically, I don't have, I mean, all the doctors are in amazement. I don't have any deficiencies, paralysis, anything like that. I do have a kind of a continuing, a little bit of a disorientation, a little bit of a brain fog, but I've always got Chris to help me through that. So he's always done. He did it before I had a medical reason.
Yeah, you don't have any new deficiencies,
No, exactly.
All the same ones are there,
Same thing. But anyway, appreciate all the well wishes and everything. But I'm fine and just getting stronger every day and just trying to get my eggs unscrambled. And that's just it sounds funny, but it's kind of difficult to do what I do, because I manage a lot of numbers and my executive function is certainly diminished. But it's getting better. We've had some good conversations this week. We've had a couple of conversations with some of our truck owners and working on a couple of new projects that we'll probably be announcing around the truck show. And this shop and the prospect of having some of these service providers represented in our shop is kind of exciting, but it's also contributing to my anxiety a little bit. But we'll have a lot of new announcements about that, and we'll be making a lot of those connections at the truck show. So hopefully we'll have some announcements right after the truck show about some things there. But in case you didn't know, we're in a partnership with CAMS Truck and Trailer over in Dunbar, West Virginia. Charleston, West Virginia. That's the Chris Dolan who we talk about all the time. He's a great guy, and they're a really, really good shop, and they're really, really honest people. And Chris Polk is there all the time, so he's our representative there. But if you need some work done, stop in and see the guys over there at CAMS, and obviously let them know where you came from. We're going to hit them up for some sponsorship money too. So let them know why you're there and how you got there. Obviously, same thing as Pittsburgh Power. We're getting ready to see them all again at the truck show and renew our sponsorship for next year. So if you like the podcast and you want to see it keep going, let Pittsburgh Power know how much you appreciate that, and go over to their booth and buy some stuff. And we'll be there. You talk with us, and we'll introduce you to Bruce and some of the guys over there, and y'all can talk trucks and whatever you want to talk about. But support our sponsors. That's how we do this, and it's what pays the bills. So we appreciate them. We appreciate you, supporting them. So anyway, you guys have a safe week, and don't nobody go out here and have any strokes. Okay?
Yeah,
I'll take it for the team here. I took one for the team. So
all right, we'll see y'all next Friday.
Take care.